Jack's such a good holder, man. Hogan's so good. Man, I'm so happy to be a part of that operation, man. It's one of a kind. I'm happy to be here.
That's right. It's Victory Monday around here as the Detroit Lions go into US Bank Stadium and come out with a huge win, 31-29, with, as you just saw there a second ago, a Jake Bates 44-yard field goal with about 15 seconds to play. Man, this was probably the game of the year so far. It was about as nerve-wracking as you can imagine. Just a great game, and I think it just proved how good and how complete of a team the Lions are, that they were able to go in there and take out the Vikings, who were undefeated coming in, even without Aiden Hutchinson. And we'll kind of get into that as we go along tonight. But overall, I'm really happy with the way they came out, with the exception of their first drive, the fake punt, which I definitely was questioning, especially where it was at on the field. You were going to risk giving the ball back to Minnesota, who's got a hell of an offense themselves, in their own territory. The opening kickoff, so essentially it was almost like they took the opening kickoff and they were going to get the ball to start the second half. But, nonetheless, they were able to kind of batten down the hatches. They got down 10-0, and the rest is history. But I think that's just a testament to, the leadership of this team with Dan Campbell, with Ben Johnson, with Aaron Glenn, who just showed how valuable of a piece of the puzzle he is. Everyone talks about how good Ben Johnson is, and Ben Johnson has all the dream pieces you can imagine, and that's not necessarily the case with Aaron Glenn. So he was able to pull some strings. I saw a stat today that with Hutchinson, his blitz rate was 27%. Last night or yesterday, it was at 57%. So they actually got to the quarterback a little bit more than they statistically are used to. It didn't show it, because I think Darnold on average was getting just shy of 4 seconds in the pocket, which is not good. When you're dealing with somebody that has the receiver core, such as Justin Jefferson. So overall, I really like the way the linebackers came in. They mixed it up. They showed a lot of blitz. They backed off. Rodrigo has been playing lights out football the last 2 to 3 weeks. And Anzalone, since coming back from his injury, he's been fantastic. So the linebacker core to me has been the key. They're very athletic. They're not as big as your prototypical linebacker, but man, can they tackle. Jack Campbell had a big game. And I think that ability to kind of play both at the line of scrimmage and back in, the second level, really helped, especially when Glenn decided to go zone, which he played zone most of that game, kind of blanket coverage on Justin Jefferson. And in that second half, that was key. Darnold tried to get him the ball as much as he can. Aside of that first possession that Minnesota had coming out of halftime, they stifled Justin Jefferson. And I can't say enough about that secondary. Terry and Arnold only had one flag, and it was questionable. So he came to play. And Amik Robinson probably had his breakout game, although he gave up a touchdown to Justin Jefferson, which if you look closely, JJ got a real nice push off on that. So it could be said that he got that separation. Maybe it was an OPI, but they're not going to call that on him in Minnesota. So, but overall, I was really impressed with the way he played. Carlton Davis, coming off that thigh injury, he was aggressive. You would never know he was hurt in any shape or form. So I really like how the defense really stood up, and knowing that a big part of that defense is gone, and it's gone for the rest of the season, these guys stepped up, and it was a huge test, in my opinion, to go into the, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the NFL and come out with a win. So, but before we get going here, a couple stats. Just this is incredible. Per Adam Schefter today, 18 touchdowns compared to 15 completions in the last 4 games. I mean, Jared Goff, I don't know. I can't think of anybody else in the NFL right now that is playing better football. You hear Josh Allen, you hear Lamar Jackson, you hear Jaden Daniels, who unfortunately went out with an injury, but he's week to week, latest I saw. But there isn't another player that means more to their team. And I've talked about this before, and everyone else has talked about. There was 2 players on this team that Detroit really couldn't afford to miss or lose, and that's Aiden Hutchinson and Jared Goff. Jared Goff is 58-68 with 7 touchdowns, no interceptions in the last 3 weeks. That's unconscionable. It just goes to show you that in the right system, this guy is it. He is him. They were just talking on ESPN, the Himmy Awards of the week. He's going to get it. He is definitely built for this. And if you guys watched my preview show earlier the other day, one of the things I mentioned, one of the keys I mentioned was his ability to be cool and calm under pressure. He's played in these games. He's played in a Super Bowl. He's played in the NFC Championship games. He's gone into Seattle. He's gone into New Orleans and won playoff games. And my concern with Darnold coming in was, has he played those high pressure games? He's been there, but he's never played in them. So I definitely think that came into play, although he was, I think, 22 of 27. He had a pretty good game, if not for Brian Branch flying through the air, making that ridiculous interception. But so I think you look at Goff's, the way he composes himself. He never looks worried. He always looks like he's okay, just another thing. And when it came down to it at the end, they needed to make plays to get in the range. Okay, just another drive, and he made it happen. So just incredible game. Like I said, I couldn't be any more proud. And we'll start after getting down 10-0. It was worrisome. The fake punt miscue. They get a touchdown, and then they get the 57-yard field goal by Reichert. Amazing kick. And he hit it with room to spare too. So indoor kicking is a little bit easier, I'm sure. But looking at it at that portion of the game, man, it was a little scary. And then the ensuing drive, David Montgomery goes out. He gets banged up. He gets, from what they were saying today, he got kind of like kneed in the back of his knee, and he was feeling some pain. But thankfully he came back, and everything looks like if he's okay, he's going to play this week. But it was looking grim, 10-0. And then I guess the experience factor and the calmness of Jared Goff came into play, and it set up this play right here. You got Gibbs with a 43-yard run, and he's off. And look at who's down there. Number 58, Penei Sewell, and Jamison Williams with the huge block. Just, that's what this team brings to the running game, the ability to have kind of 2 forms of a runner. You have Sonic here, as they've called Sonic and Knuckles. His speed, his versatility, his quick feet. I mean, that was a juke move. That guy's still trying to find his jock strap. But that's a luxury when you look at that. Not many teams have the ability to, okay, Montgomery goes out. Last week, he was the key to the victory. This week, they plug in Gibbs, boom. They don't skip a beat. It's incredible looking at that aspect. And one of the keys that I mentioned before to victory was it was going to be the running game. It had to be the running game. And looking at the stat line, the Lions rushed for 144 yards against the number one rush defense in the NFL. That's pretty special. And that's missing their left guard in Kevin Zeitler, who missed, and they had to plug in Kayode Awasika. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But, you know, it was a little bit of a rough start from him. I think he took 4 penalties total, a couple false start penalties and a couple holding penalties. But as the game went on, he seemed to get a little bit more comfortable in the, you know, the run game, making, you know, big plays there as it went on. And then, so it's 10-7. Detroit gets the ball back. They make a nice stop. And here we go with Amon-Ra. And what's amazing about this front, Minnesota brings a 7-man front. So Goff recognized that. And he motions Tim Patrick to get that extra blocker. Essentially, he sees the defense almost playing a cover 0 in a sense. And he knows that he's going to have single coverage over the top. But he also knows that, all right, I'm going to need a little bit of extra protection. So he, like I said, he motions Tim Patrick. Just genius. If you watch his eyes, he looks up, then he looks at Patrick, and he you know, motions him to go that way. And Patrick gets a key block that gives him just enough time to hit Amon-Ra over the top for the touchdown. And just like that, it goes from a 10-0 game to 14-10 within 5 minutes. Just remarkable composure from a team. They never got down. And I that's coaching. That's leadership. That's the guys that wear the C on their chest, showing that, hey, we're good. It'll happen. We'll make it right. And all it took was one, and boom, that's it. All it took was that big run from Jameer to get the touchdown, 43-yard run, longest run of the season, longest run Minnesota's given up all year, and they were off and running. And then here comes BB, Brian Branch, working his wonders here.
On back-to-back drives. Fake it to Jones, off the play action. Darnold's got time. Underthrown ball, looking for Addison, and what a play by Brian Branch. Continues to make impact play after impact play. And that's 3 picks in the last 2 games for the second-year man out of Alabama.
Well, it's like he's listening in on the call, Adam. I mean, you can't play so many different positions so well. There's just not a lot of guys who can do it. He's the robber on the backside of the coverage. He just jumps the crossing route, and Sam Darnold just never sees him.
He was there.
Brian Branch, I think our good buddy Bill Wirtz would like to say he's a special beast. His ability to read the quarterback and get himself into position, he might be 15 yards away, and his closing speed is just phenomenal. And like we've said before, and it's really come out strong this week, how did this guy slip into the second round? And our good buddy Rich Jasper, the elephant in the room. And what is the elephant in the room? The pass rusher. And I alluded to it a little bit earlier. It's definitely going to be a need. They gave Darnold 3.8 seconds on average to sit back and really kind of survey where he wanted to put the ball. And I guess if you're playing someone other than Sam Darnold, that's no swipe at Sam Darnold. But if you're playing a Mahomes, if you're playing another all-pro type of quarterback, generally speaking, they're going to pick you apart. But for the simple fact that the secondary was playing really good, and Aaron Glenn's defensive scheme as that game kind of evolved just showed you that, okay, they were going to be able to handle it. But let's get into that real quick. It's obvious they need a pass rusher. James Houston, I think he was in on 9 snaps, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's not with this team within the next week or two. So what do you do? Where do you go? My dream scenario, just like everybody else's, is Max Crosby. It's too good to be true. But, with that being said, what does that say to Raider Nation that you're going to just sell off your best player? I mean, I as much as I want to sit here and be like, oh, but who cares? They suck. You got to look at it in their eyes. If they give him, they're going to get some draft capital back. They might get some, a player or two back, but the heart and soul of that team is gone. You just traded away Devontae Adams, and now you're going to trade away Max Crosby. But, on the flip side, you look at Crosby, they're 3-4 years away from doing anything. So why wouldn't you, as a guy that's hungry to win now, knowing the situation, why wouldn't he go into Davis's office and say, listen here, I know you don't want to do it, but I respect. I think I deserve the respect to get the opportunity to go out and win now. And I would like to request a trade. Do I see that happening? I don't know. I think Crosby's kind of thrown some crumbs out there, maybe thinking that the front office will pick it up. They haven't, not that I've heard, but clearly that would be a dream scenario because you can line him up opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Not only do they become the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year, they're the favorites to win next year and maybe the year after that. So, but it's a high price tag. And you've got players that they've extended that are on the current roster, and you've got guys that are going to be coming up here in the next year or two. So how much of that, cap, that salary cap, are they going to have to play with? But that's definitely something that would be a dream scenario. Here's another guy, Myles Garrett. I guess grumblings out of Cleveland. There's teams calling. Of course there's going to be teams calling. He's a man. He's just an absolute beast of a player. He's a fearsome defensive end that knows how to get to the quarterback. He knows how to sack the quarterback. He's good against the run. You line him up on that line, it automatically makes him better, makes the team better. And again, they would be favorites this year. And then next year when Aiden's back healthy, they're going to be favorites again. So those are your dream scenarios. But then you look at, possibilities. You got a guy in Ojulari, who's in New York. He's in the last year of his rookie contract. New York just lost again. I think they're 2-5. They're not going anywhere. That could be an easy, maybe a third round pick for him. So Landry, who's coming in this week with Tennessee, he's a pass rushing linebacker. You could plug him in on the end. He's impactful. I think he's got 5 sacks on the year. There's a guy. Zadarius Smith has kind of made comments. I think he's throwing it out there like, hey, I would love to go to Detroit because I could play Minnesota and Green Bay twice a year. And those are 2 teams that he used to play for. So there's options that Detroit has. But we all know Brad Holmes doesn't like playing around with his draft picks. And he's a wizard when it comes to that. But this is kind of a uncharted territory for this current regime. We've never had such an impactful injury of a prominent player that means so much to this team. So it would lead me to think that Brad Holmes would kind of go out of his comfort zone a little bit and maybe risk a first round, maybe risk a second round. Personally, I would give 2025 first and a second and James Houston to Vegas. For Max Crosby. That would be my kind of proposal. And I suppose that could be the proposal that I would give to Cleveland as well for Myles Garrett. And the Myles Garrett situation is his contract isn't as steep as Max Crosby. So ideally that one might make more sense from a cap standpoint, but either way you shake it, I mean, either one of those guys, they're incredible. They're just incredible. So, but it was glaring. I think Pascal got hurt on 2 occasions. He's the China doll. He was able to get a sack there in the 4th quarter. So, but they did not get any pressure. I mean, Aleem McNeil, who's been a workhorse this year, he just couldn't get to the quarterback. Why? Because there was no pressure coming off the edges. So, I think you were able to get away with it with the Vikings, and you'll get away with it this week against Tennessee, which I'm not surprised that you haven't heard any more rumors of moves being made, because I think they're really comfortable going into next Sunday against Tennessee. What they have now will be okay. Not to mention, it's that much closer to trade deadline. So I think you're going to get a lot of teams out there throwing deals off, and it's more of a leverage thing. And Brad Holmes, as we all know, he's a wizard. He's a genius. I mean, hell, how many GMs do you know that have their own bobblehead that they gave away to the fans? I don't think there is any other than him. So if there's a way, Brad Holmes is going to find it. So yeah, Rich, I agree with you. They have to do something to shore up that defense, and I just think that would make them just so much better. And I fully expect them to make a move. The move they made last week, picking up Isaiah Thomas off the Bengal practice squad, I think that's a lateral move, more of a depth situation. He's a Pascal kind of a guy and a Owuzu kind of a guy. So it's not going to wow you. They can rotate 2-3 guys in at that point. So, but yes, I fully expect Brad Holmes to make a move here, at least within the next week, because I believe the trade deadline is a week from Tuesday or somewhere in that time frame. So I look forward to, and I'm refreshing my Twitter all the time, just waiting for the bunch of bitches text thread to get the update from our good buddy Drew that he's usually on top of things. But back to the game. So Branch with the amazing interception, which he's got 4 on the year. Let me pull this stat up here. He's got four picks on the year, and now this is the second week that he's been graded per PFF over 90%. I mean, that's just those are not stats that are unheard of. And get a look at that image there on the left, man. Is that a sweet picture or what? And that just goes to show you the athleticism. He jumps up, snatches the ball, and he came down with it. And while he was coming down, he was maneuvering the ball to get it in his left arm because he was on that left sideline. Just a smart IQ. Football IQ is amazing. So he gets that pick, and then we're on to the next beautiful run and ballsy move by Ben Johnson. They overload the line. It's 3rd and 7 inside the 10. They overload the line. All indications, you're going to hear Jared Goff yell, alert, alert. They're going to call an audible. He doesn't. He knows he's got those big boys up front. And as soon as the ball snapped, there's a gaping hole. And here's Awasika with the big block, the seal block right there. And then you got Big Panay that finishes it off. The offensive line athleticism is amazing. And then you talk about the faith that Ben Johnson has in that offensive line to call that play. They knew that they were overloading that line of scrimmage. And I think most teams would have backed out of that play. But Detroit looked at it this way. If we get past the first line, the first level, there's nobody else there. Everyone is spread. There was no linebackers whatsoever at that second level, which ended up being in the end zone. And they made the play, and it was beautiful. And that took a lot of the air out of US Bank. You could see it in the fans. You could see it in the players' faces. Man, what's happening? This is a tale of 2 halves or 2 quarters here. Minnesota, end of first, is up 10-0. They go into halftime down 21-10. Just remarkable show of patience and just the will to not give up by the Lions. And here's another play coming up here. Khalif Raymond's touchdown. I want you to focus on Jahmyr Gibbs, who's got 2 touchdowns at this point in the game, makes a key block.
4 on the rush. Goff underneath. He's got a man and a first down to Raymond. He gets away from a defender and scores. Khalif Raymond's first touchdown of the year. Gibbs.
I mean, that is what this offense is. A Ben Johnson offense requires your running backs, your tight ends, and your wide receivers to block downfield. And you saw that in the first touchdown Jahmyr had. You saw Jameson Williams, who got the kind of the seal block at the 5 that allowed Gibbs to kind of cut back in and get the touchdown. And then there you saw Gibbs take out Josh Metellus, which is no easy task, and create that just enough room for Khalif Raymond to go in there and get the touchdown. Just unselfish play. Now, if we go back and you look at last week against Dallas, who was your key figure in that game? It was Jameson Williams. He was all over the field, making big plays downfield. Yesterday, he had 1 catch for -4 yards. Broke my heart as a fantasy owner. He cost me negative yardage, but you know what? I don't care. I don't care because the Lions end up winning. But that's the thing with this team. It's somebody different each and every week. Last week, David Montgomery was the special beast. Like I said, Jameson Williams. This week, Monty gets hurt. He fumbles the ball. We'll get to that in a minute. Jahmyr steps up. Amon-Ra last week, 3 catches. This week, he's got 8 catches. It's just, and if you ask them all the same thing, you only got 1 catch, J-Mo. What are you thinking? Man, we won the game. That's all I care about. These guys are very unselfish, and it's hard to find that type of a player in this league. Everybody wants the stats. Everybody wants to be the best of the best. You don't see too many teams where everyone gets in line, and they do just whatever's necessary for the team. And that's what happens. One of my keys, that I had going into this game was I felt this was going to be a Sam Laporta game. I was wrong. Laporta had 1 catch. But again, Laporta was so impactful in the run game, as I've mentioned before. Those are the things you don't notice in the stat sheet that they don't talk about. How many blocks did Laporta have that not only protected Goff or sprung Jahmyr Gibbs for a 5, 6, 7+ yard run? Those are the things that you don't see, but reality is they matter and they impact games. So 1 catch, it was a hell of a catch too, and he took a big hit and he looked like he was a little ginger getting up off the field, but nonetheless, it's somebody new every week, stepping up. Making big plays. And that to me, that's coaching. That's culture. That's these guys knowing that, they've got a big picture on their mind. They know what this season means. And, but moving on to the fourth quarter, there was a touchdown pass, Justin Jefferson there, which a little bit of a push off, but whatnot. So Minnesota started inching their way back. Got to within striking distance. I think it was 28-23. And late in the fourth, Monty gets hit with the peanut punch that Brian Branch did last week. Well, they become victims of it this week. And Ivan Pace Jr. picks it up and takes it back for a touchdown. Now, it's 29-28. Minnesota goes for 2. No fear. No fear. Who's to save the day? Mr. BB. Brian Branch with the pass deflection. So that was key. That 2-point conversion fail was key. And it allowed Detroit to, we don't have to go all the way down. The pressure wasn't totally put on them. They go and just an absolute terrible possession. We're now, under 5 minutes to play. You're punting the ball away. Fortunately, Detroit had their timeouts and the 2-minute warning, so they had something to think about. But The worry I had, and I'm sure everybody else had, was, okay, Minnesota's got the momentum. They got the crowd. How is this going to work out? And if there was ever a time for that defensive front to actually put some pressure on Darnold and force him out of the pocket and to make plays, this was it. This was absolutely it. So they forced the third down. They forced a big third down stop, which it almost looked like he had Naylor on the over the top, but one of the receivers underneath went for the ball. And I think there was some confusion, but nonetheless, they get the big stop. They punt. Detroit takes over possession. Now they've got a little over 3 minutes and all their timeouts, and it's a situation of, okay, let's control the clock because we know Minnesota can score quick. We know they can score quick. And hand off to Jahmyr Gibbs, 15-yard gain. Boom, now they're close to midfield. And then they do play action, which when you have the run game going as well as you do, play action is just such a weapon. And they were able to do play action, and they absolutely forgot about Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield. He takes it into Minnesota territory. Now there's too much time on the clock. And this is where the trust and the professionalism of Jared Goff comes into play. Ben Johnson has enough trust to say, hey, we're not there yet. We need about 10, 15 more yards. Go get it. And he couldn't have thrown to a better receiver in Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra has got probably some of the best hands in all of football. And his ability to make the catch knowing he's going to absolutely get hit. And he got hit as soon as the ball hit his hands. He was preparing for it, and he got hit real hard. And he held onto the ball. And that gave them the ability, I believe it was from about the 20, 25-yard line they made that reception. And now it was just a matter of working that clock. Minnesota runs out of their timeouts, and now it's a kneeling game. And, man, I know sitting here in the speakeasy, my heart was pounding. Christina's, like, just walking around. Oh, my God, I'm stressed. I can't watch. Because Michigan Panther alum Jake Bates, who's currently, I believe, 9 of 9 on the season, hasn't had to make a pressure kick. He's had a game tying kick in a previous game, but he's never had to make a kick in his professional career to the magnitude of this.
For the lead, Bates has delivered. Detroit is on top with 15 seconds left.
Not to mention, the refs absolutely missed the penalty of number 18 jumping over the center, which is absolutely a penalty. I don't think it would have mattered. It would have moved him up 5 yards. They would have got the first down, but I don't think they would have changed the result in that. But wow, what a huge kick. And I think the consensus around here was, yeah, he kicked a couple 60-yarders in the UFL. That's the UFL. This is the NFL. It's a different ball game. How is he going to be able to handle when the kick the game relies on him? He misses that kick, it's over. It's over. Detroit's out of timeout. They got like maybe a timeout or two left, but it's for all purposes, it's over. So, what was that kick going to be? And he matched it. He met the moment. Absolutely great kick. And I think that'll set kind of the bar moving forward, the confidence level that not only he will have, but the confidence level that the coaching staff, Dan Campbell's going to have, like, okay, this is our guy. This is our guy. He's going to be able to go and get it. But there's 15 seconds left on the clock. And Darnold gets a pass down to about the midfield mark, and they get called for a penalty. It was an illegal procedure penalty. They were lined up illegally. And it was interesting. Normally, penalties like that include a 10-second runoff if you don't have any timeouts. Minnesota did not have any timeouts. So I believe everyone, even Dan Campbell, thought, man, this game's over. He took off his headsets and he starts high-fiving guys, and they're like, no, since it was a illegal procedure, they got set, but they were lined up wrong. There was a 5-yard penalty, and there was one last play. Lion fans know all too well Hail Mary plays usually don't go in our favor. We can all remember Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball deep, and Reggie Rogers with the huge catch to win it last second several years ago. I believe it was a Thursday night game. But, man, so the pressure was on. Do you run everyone back, or do you put pressure on the quarterback? And, well, here's the result. You have Detroit lining up 3 front, and then they're bringing 2 linebacker set, and they're coming. And you get Trevor Nowaski, who's been elevated up on this team within the last couple of weeks, who's played some damn good football in the last 2 weeks. Local kid out of, as JP informs us, Plymouth-Salem High School, which is right down the road, probably 15 minutes from where I'm broadcasting at right now, makes probably the sack of his life to seal the game. And, man, I think there was a huge sigh of relief lifted off in the Metro Detroit area. And I can only imagine how the Lions fans that were at U.S. Bank were feeling at that point. I'm sure the Jared Goff chants were loud and proud running through the concourse area leaving. But, man, that was one hell of a game. That was one hell of a game. And here's Dan Campbell afterwards on Jared Goff. Just awesome.
The guy's got arm talent, there's no question, but it's what he's got here and what he's got here. And that's what makes him a dangerous player, and it's what makes him really one of these guys that you can build around, because he's a winner, man. He will find a way to win. He'll find a way to put the offense in position to win the game. He doesn't get frazzled. He's tough. He's competitive, and he's just, man, he's reliable. He's reliable, and I love the guy, man. And once again, he steps up huge for us there on the road, division game.
That's it right there. And JP, I agree. He's the clear cut. And a lot of the shows I watched today, all agreed. They're giving him their due. And that's the thing about Jared Goff. He's been forgotten about for many years. And he's just a winner. He's an absolute winner. And he, to me, he's the clear cut. It's not even close right now. I understand there's a long ways to go, but yesterday's game proved why he's the right quarterback for this situation. I don't think there's any other team he would be able to do. There's no other quarterback that you can plug in here that's going to be able to know this offense and be so cool and relaxed and just be able to go out and execute to the highest level. So, what do you guys think? Who would you say would be the second, third, fourth contender for MVP? Like I said earlier, it's Josh Allen, which I don't even think he's had that good of a year. And statistically, yeah, he's not throwing as many picks, but he's gotten it going the last couple weeks. And Lamar Jackson has looked a lot better because why? He's got Derrick Henry back there, and man, is he punching his way through defenses and taking a lot off of his shoulders. So he's able to be more of a quarterback. So, but other than that, there's not a player that has meant so much to his team as Jared Goff. So, but yeah, I agree 100%. Jared Goff is the MVP right now. So we're going to hand out game balls on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive. And for the offensive side, I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs. I just love what I saw. His just willingness to attack when Monty was not having the game that he's accustomed to. This is the first game of the season that Montgomery has not scored a touchdown. But it's next man, boom. Gibbs showed up with 15 carries, 116 yards on the ground. Also had 4 catches for 44, 2 touchdowns on the ground. So just a hell of a performance by Gibbs. And, next week it could be Monty, but just having Sonic and Knuckles as their name just makes Detroit that much better. And on the defensive side, it's no secret. It's Brian Branch, another pick. He almost had a fumble return for a touchdown, if not for just a little. The foot was a little bit out of bounds, but his ability to come up and play the line of scrimmage, his ability to snuff out the run game. There was one play in particular they highlighted. He's 15 yards into the backfield, into the defensive backfield, and he reads the handoff and he stops. What's his name? Aaron Jones at the line of scrimmage. Just incredible closing speed. There aren't many of them like that. And you pair him alongside Kirby. That's a pretty damn good safety unit. But again, Gibbs getting the offensive game ball and Brian Branch getting the defensive game ball. So, man, just complete game. I look forward to hearing rumors of potential replacements for Aiden Hutchinson. We have our dreams, like we talked about, but I think we're going to go somewhere in between. They're not going to break the bank, but they're going to bring in someone that will be productive and impactful and allow the rest of that defensive line to get into the quarterback. So looking up to this coming week, man, I can't wait to be in Ford Field. It's going to be electric. Last year, I can recall week 2 after Detroit won in Kansas City. Ford Field atmosphere was incredible. And, like the playoff games, just there are no words that can describe how it is. I think we're going to be coming into something similar to that. You got Tennessee, who just lost to Buffalo, although they gave them a little bit more of a challenge than I expected. Mason Rudolph was the starter, obviously. Will Levis has just been an absolute dumpster fire all year. Even his coach was like, what are you doing? Like just flipping the ball without looking, throwing interceptions. So Mason Rudolph is the starter. I mean, he's the only known for being mollywopped by Cleveland Brown defender. So Myles Garrett a couple years ago with his helmet. But I don't expect a whole lot of production out of Tennessee. They do have a really good receiver core, but I think Detroit will be able to get to Mason Rudolph, will get to the quarterback. Tennessee does not have the best offensive line. They don't have a very good running game, Tony Pollard, but you got to have those big boys up front, and Tennessee just doesn't have it. They've been working on that in the draft, but they're not there yet. So I expect the offense to become pretty predictable, and Brian Branch going to be a ball hawk, so look for him. And on the flip side, Tennessee's got a pretty decent defense, so it's going to take a good mix of run and pass. I don't worry about the run game because obviously Detroit went in against the number 1 run defense and put up 160, 170 yards on the ground. So that does not worry me in the least. So I look for a big game from the Lions. The crowd's going to stand out, and can Mason Rudolph handle that crowd noise that we all know Ford Field brings? So look forward to that. But we'll be doing another show here probably within the next couple days. We'll preview that game a little more in depth, and we'll talk about the big clash Saturday night between the shitty Michigan State Spartans and the even shittier Michigan Wolverines. Boy, what a difference a year makes. So that game's coming up at 7:30. And look for Saturday night, we're going to bring in the boys from the Fourth and Goal podcast. They're going to be recording a live show right here from the Speakeasy. So look for that. And that should be a lot of fun. We're going to have about 4 or 5 guys on mic just giving a reaction of the game as it's going on. So that should be a lot of fun. But again, probably Thursday or Friday, I'm going to do a preview show of that game. Not a whole lot to look forward to. Who's going to be the quarterback for Michigan? God, I hope it's not the 3 that they've played. It's just been embarrassing. So look for that. And I want to thank everybody that tuned in. Please please share the show. Get it out there. I appreciate you guys. Continue to make comments as this gets rebroadcast. But again, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you again next time.